Okie dokie. So we're going to go into the arms now. So let's get started. Really, not much else to do. So I'm just going to draw just because this is how we started all the other ones. Alright, so we have our shoulder muscle. So let's draw our shoulder muscle in here. So this would be where our collarbone joins into here, and our trapezius up here, and then our chest muscle would insert here like this. And that's why I went over the body before doing the arms. Okay, so then we have our bicep muscle in here, and our tricep muscle on the outside here. We have our elbow bone, we have our forearm muscles, and this is another bit of bone that sticks out right here. So the shoulder muscle is broken down into parts like this. So now I'm breaking this down a lot more than what I did with the other ones, but that's okay. And I'll just very quickly separate this into colors for us. So the first one being the shoulder muscle up here. We have our bicep here, which inserts in here. We have our tricep here. And then we'll do our forearm muscles. Like that. Alright, so they're the basic forms, that basic muscle groups that we're going to need to learn. So we have our shoulder, bicep, tricep, and the forearm muscles. Now let's break this down. So let's draw an arm directly from the front. Actually, you know what? Let's go from behind so we can see this tricep muscle. So this would be our rhomboid here, and this would be our trapezius muscle here. And our lats would come down like that. Okay, so we're going to break this down muscle by muscle. First, let's take this guy who's a bit big and we'll shrink him down, move him over here so he's not in the way. So this will be our first drawing that we use. Then let's do another one. So this is much more of a if the person was standing side on. And we'd have the collarbone and chest on this side like this, the rhomboid over that side. And of course the last one would be a directly front on one. Okay. And I guess if we go to an extreme, we could probably all right. Okay, so let's go through and we'll break this down. So the first one we will do is the easiest one, which will be the shoulder muscle. Pretty simple. grab our blue pen for this. So from behind here, well, first of all, we have a kind of teardrop-ish or upside down teardrop. So that's a teardrop, and we'll go upside down like that kind of shape that is split into, you know, as many different groups as you want. Most of the time stick with 3 or 4. If they're really ripped, you can get in there and you can, you know, put all those in there, but generally I try and stick to about 3 just to keep it a bit more manageable. Like so. Okay, simple enough. I mean, it's not particularly hard to draw. Let's I think probably, obviously, if the arm raises up, the shoulder's going to bunch in here a little bit. It's going to look like that. Okay, we won't worry about that too much for now. We'll just learn the muscle groups first. So that's the shoulder, and again, you can separate that as much as you want. Okay, so the next one would be, the next obvious one would be the tricep. Now, when you draw the tricep, most of the time what you're going to be drawing is 2 muscles like this, one on the outside and one on the inside. But it is called a tricep for a reason, and there is actually a third one, like this. Okay, so that keep that in mind, because this is going to become very useful soon. So obviously from the side you either wouldn't see that inside one, or you'd see a little bit of it. So what I've actually done here is I've actually got the proportions a little bit wrong, and it's important that I fix this up. So the outside muscle is shorter than the inside muscle. So the inside muscle of the tricep is generally always longer than the outside one. Okay? So what we really see here is we have that kind of effect there, and of course we could chuck in that third muscle if we wanted to. So again, with this one here, we'd see some muscle like that, and we'd probably get a hint of this inside one here, although it's not turned, the arm's not turned very far, so in this case we probably might not even see that muscle at all. But then this one here, the arm's turned further, so what would we see? We'd see the inside muscle more, and probably none of the outside muscle, or maybe a little bit depending. But the important thing to remember here is there's 3 muscles, like so. Okay, you have a small one, a long one, and so on the inside you have one that's lower. So from the back it'll look like this. Okay, and that's going to be important later because we're going to transfer all of this onto the leg, because the leg is actually very similar. Alright, next let's go on to the bicep. So from the back of the arm, you're probably not going to see any bicep. From the side of the arm, it's going to look like this. So you have an insertion here and an insertion here for the bicep. Like so. Pretty simple. And now the tricky one, the forearm muscles. So there are a couple of main forearm muscles. The first one would be this one here. And then the next most obvious one, changing up the color again, and I think we'll keep it green, but we'll change it up, would be on the inside here. Like so. Okay, which would also be this one here, and we would have a bone, stick our bone in here like this, so you can see that. For consistency's sake. Okay, so they're the two main ones on the inside of the arm. Okay, and they wrap around the arm like that. The next one that will be, oops, wrong one, that would be important would be the one that runs down the arm like this. Okay, and we'd probably see a little bit of it here, but not a whole lot. I'm not a fan of that color. Yeah, that's probably different enough for you to tell. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we have this one down here. So they're the major ones, and then from there you can, you know, add on extra little muscle things wherever you see them. There's some tendons on the front of the arm here, which we'll add in later, but we'll talk about that later. But this is the main forms of muscle groups of the arm. Okay, something to keep in mind would be that there is a bone. This is the bone, this section, and this section here is a bone, like so. Okay. All right. So pretty simple, pretty easy. So what I'm going to do now is let's merge some layers down because we have an awful lot. Okay, and I'm going to draw some different typical arm shapes that you would get so that we can just look at how these muscles react. So first one being the obvious muscle man pose. Again, I'm not worried about hands at the minute, so I'll focus on that. All right. So this would be our bicep. This would be our shoulder. Our chest muscle in here. Our trapezius. Of course, that would be where our tricep would go, and we have this little tendon in here in between the tricep and bicep, right up underneath this part here, which you cannot see unless the arm is lifted, but it is there, so it's important to know it. The other thing about the bicep, which I should mention, is it is technically two shapes. We have a small one on the inside and a larger one on the outside, and that's actually really important, and I shouldn't have skipped over it. But essentially, let's go back to this layer. Split down the center here. You have a small muscle on the inside and a large muscle on the outside. Okay. All right, let's go back up the top here. So we get something looking like this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to draw this from the back view. So this is looking at the inside of the arm. So this is where the insertion points really become beneficial to know. because this green muscle here, this muscle here, overlaps the bicep on the outside of the arm. It inserts right here in between the bicep and the tricep. So what that means is from the outside, we get something that looks like this, but from the inside we get something that looks like this, where the bicep is in front. So you can see there is a difference there. So there would be a bone goes down here, and that would be the other, this muscle here would be this muscle here. All right. So the other thing I'm going to do just real quickly is I'm going to draw the back of the arm here, but bent. So now the reason I'm doing this is to show you what happens to the tricep. So you can see how it's all bunched up here. So that's it in its contracted form. So the bicep and the tricep are opposite. Okay, so when the arm is straight, the bicep is stretched and the tricep is contracted. Okay, when the arm is bent, the bicep is contracted and the tricep is stretched. So you can see the arm is bent here. And this tricep is longer this way than what it is here in that resting position. Okay, that's something to keep in mind as well. Alright, okay, so that just about does it for the arms. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move on. Just organize this a bit better for a second. Alright, and that would be the arm. Alright, so we're going to finish up here, and then we're going to come back in the next lesson and we're going to go over the legs.